A Musical Life with music teacher's helper, founder, and world traveler Brandon Pearce. Brandon Pearce is the founder of Music Teacher's Helper, a website that does just that. It helps music teachers organize, schedule, and receive payments for music lessons, and so much more. From the proceeds of his company, Brandon lives a remarkable life, traveling around the world full-time with his family, free of material possessions, and with the luxury of time to ponder life's beauty and mysteries. This episode of A Musical Life is brought to you by A Musical Life Mastermind. If you're like most musicians, you're either concerned about making a living with your music, or you're running around juggling gigs and teaching jobs just to make ends meet. Well, what if there was a way to make a living as a musician and still have the time and creativity to live a fulfilling life? At A Musical Life Mastermind, I draw from my own experiences as a classical pianist, co-founding a tech company, teaching thousands of online music students, and hosting a podcast with 250,000 downloads so far to teach musicians how to become entrepreneurs and discover innovative ways to earn and live more productively. To learn more and get your free ebook on the #1 resource you need to grow your music, visit amusicallifemastermind.com. Once again, that web address is amusicallifemastermind.com. Welcome to A Musical Life. I'm Hugh Sung. We're continuing our special series on musical entrepreneurs, and I'm so excited to share one of the most fascinating interviews to date. Classically trained pianist Brandon Pearce started out juggling a small studio of piano students and a full-time job while raising a young family. To solve some of his own problems as a piano teacher, Brandon created Music Teacher's Helper, which then went on to grow into a business that gave him the opportunity to live and think outside the box. Way outside the box. We're talking about leaving a full-time job, selling all his possessions, leaving the country, and living around the world with only what he and his family could carry. In the process, he made some important discoveries that turned his world upside down. This is easily one of the most thought-provoking interviews I've conducted so far, and I really appreciate Brandon's openness and transparency in sharing his remarkable story. Let's start out by listening to one of his own compositions, Caged Free. Brandon, thank you so much for being on the show. I understand you're currently in New Zealand now. Is that right?
That's right, in Nelson.
New Zealand, and you're there for quite a while. This is one of the interesting facts about you. You travel around the world, and you don't just take short trips. You really stay and spend a considerable amount of time in each location.
Yeah, we try to. It's helpful for us to get more into the culture that way and to feel settled, and also to have some time to work on creative projects and uh, yeah, and not feel so rushed.
Oh, wonderful. We're going to get into all of that in just a bit. But first, let's focus a little bit about what you're best known for. You're actually the developer and founder of Music Teacher's Helper, which is an amazing web resource that basically, as I understand it, takes care of the business back end for music teachers. Can you tell us what Music Teacher's Helper actually does and how it works?
Yes, it's a software program that runs online. It's a web app, and it helps teachers keep track of the billing and the scheduling and yeah, all the business back end pretty much that teachers have to do. As far as for example, if you're a private piano teacher, maybe you have a studio of 10 students or 30 students or whatever. When I used to teach, the reason that I created Music Teachers Helper was because students would come to me and they'd ask me regularly, how much do I owe you again, or what's I have to cancel this lesson or that lesson, and when is my next one scheduled? And there would always be these questions that would take up time during the lesson or outside of the lesson that I just thought, well, I could probably do this more efficiently. So I was a programmer and a music teacher, obviously. So I wrote this little app to help keep track of those details in my own studio, and uh, eventually, yeah, expanded it into the business it is today, which is very different from how it used to be. We now have features like automatic invoicing and lending library, so you can keep track of the books that you lend out to your students and make sure they get their way back to you. Practice log for the students to keep track of their practice time and what they're working on. Uh, Lots of reports for income and expenses and all sorts of things.
And just to help folks understand, folks who may not be as technically savvy, this is a web app, meaning you don't have to install anything on your own computer. It's simply you just need an internet connection, a web browser, and there's no chance of you losing the data if your computer breaks or crashes because it's all stored on the web, on the internet. Is that correct?
That's right. And we also have an iPhone and an Android app for those who want to use the site on the go.
Oh, that is so
Um,
cool.
and
Wow.
students can also log in, which is the other thing that's helpful about it. So they can log in and make a payment online or check their schedules or reschedule lessons, that type of thing.
And they can also see the notes that the teachers write for them, reminding them of things to work on from their lessons. Isn't that right?
Yes, and that's I think one of the favorite features of students and parents is after each lesson, a teacher can write notes about how the lesson went and what they want the student to work on next time, and those can automatically be emailed to the student and the parent so that they can stay up to date on what's happening at the lesson. Helps facilitate that communication.
I think what's really cool for the music teachers, especially those who are not comfortable with technology and maybe don't even have their own website, Music Teachers Helper makes it easy for anybody. You don't have to have any programming knowledge, no tech knowledge, and you can have a beautiful website created through Music Helper's teachers. And that could tell us a little bit about that feature too.
Sure, yeah. There are a few dozen templates that we've created. So you can just, as soon as you create your Music Teachers Helper account, you automatically have a website that you can show to your students and prospective students. You can put up information about yourself. It's just as easy as using a word processor, but you can choose which pages you want on it or add your own custom pages. And yeah, it beautifully designed. So most of them are music-related themes.
Yeah, and that is such a powerful tool, especially as more and more music teachers realize they need to be on the internet, on the web in some way. And this is a great tool for them to advertise and market their studios, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's also been helpful for not just for students being able to find teachers, but being able to contact them through the site and for the teachers to communicate with their students about upcoming events or showcasing the students with a photo or a sample of some of their music or something like that. It's a way to kind of highlight the students' performance publicly as well.
That is so cool. Now, Music Teachers Helper has been around for quite a while. I think it was launched way back in 2004. Is that correct?
That's right. I started developing it for myself around 2003, and I think made it available to business in 2004.
That is now. Can you share approximately how many teachers are using Music Teachers Helper presently?
Yeah, we have difference between the paying users. We have a free plan for teachers under five who have fewer than five students, and then we have paid plans above that. But yeah, there's over 10,000 teachers on our list.
Wow. And are these teachers are all over the world, or are they mostly in certain countries, or
Yeah, all over the world. I
that
think.
that's
Yeah.
incredible. Now, I'm wondering if you don't mind sharing, because you must have access to some really interesting statistics. What are some of the largest instrument categories among the teachers who use your service?
Piano has always been, I think, the biggest, um, and also voice is another very popular one. But we have, teachers of every instrument on there, as well as some non-music teachers like art and dance and a few things like that. So
That's clever. Do you have templates that would an art or dance teacher have to put up with putting up a piano teacher template on their website or
we have some generic ones that work for them. Yeah.
that is so cool. And this is something that could work for any arts instruction, don't you think?
Definitely. And in fact, we created a separate website called studiohelper.com, which is, I started it because a lot of the teachers who were using Music Teachers Helper were growing their studios to the point where they needed to hire other teachers to help teach their students.
Ah.
And so this is a program that helps larger studios with multiple teachers manage their studios. And we decided to also make it more generic so that it could work not just for music, but for other industries as well, dance and yoga and art and all sorts of things.
That's absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. Boy, I bet a lot of teachers out there dreaming of the day that they can have their own schools with other teachers working for them, huh? Now, we hear about arts funding being cut from school programs all over the United States. Now, music teachers, as we mentioned, there's some fascinating statistics that you're able to look at in terms of who's using your site. I'm wondering if you can give us a look into kind of the entrepreneurial side of music education. Are there any specific trends that you've noticed in the 11 or 12 years that you've been in business? Any major growth areas in private music instruction?
Hmm. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are. Yes. I mean, for one, so many more. Music and theory related apps, games, products like the one you've created. Just the technology to facilitate not only music learning but music teaching has been increasing over and over again.
I guess what I'm asking is, are you seeing a growth in the number of teachers signing up for your service, perhaps indicating that more and more teachers are becoming entrepreneurs, or has it been pretty much steady? Has it been just kind of steady throughout most of the time that you've been in business?
I see what you're asking. Yes, no, definitely, we're getting more and more. And in fact, in the early days, I think 2003 and four. I mean, it was a really new idea to even start paying for something online with your credit card, and thinking about not installing software. I mean, it was a new thing and a little bit intimidating for a lot of people. But now that's, I think, fairly standard.
Mm.
It's becoming more mainstream, I guess I should say. So yeah, definitely, there's more and more people looking for services like this.
And this is a tremendous tool to make it easier than ever for music teachers to consider becoming entrepreneurs, not just depending on winning a job or finding a position in a university or a school.
Definitely, yeah. There's a good market in it.
Now, I want to delve into your personal story a bit. I understand that you come from a musical family and that you learned to play the piano when you were 5 years old. And eventually, as you mentioned, you became a piano teacher yourself and you were also working as an assistant choral director. Is that correct?
That's right.
And you were also, at the same time, I understand, interested in computers. And so I guess you didn't get a music degree. You actually got a bachelor's degree in computer science. So was that on purpose? Did you see computer science being more marketable than a music degree?
Yeah, I I loved music from a young age and piano. My dad's a choir director, and I thought about going into that for a while, but I also at the same time loved computers, and I started programming when I was 12, and I've just always been fascinated by. I used to take computers apart and put them back together. Um, so yeah, eventually when it came time to decide on what I wanted to do career wise, my mom gave me some advice that it's easier to support a computer or a music hobby on a computer programmer's salary than a computer hobby on a music teacher's salary. And she was speaking from experience, I think, with my dad being a choral director. But
Was your mother a musician as well?
yeah, she does. She plays piano and sings, and very talented.
Well, that's very wise advice. So I understand at one point, then you graduated college with a bachelor's in computer science, and then you actually eventually got a full-time job as a web programmer for a document imaging software company. But you were also still teaching piano students on the side. I'm wondering, how many piano students were you teaching at the most?
Yeah, at the height of my studio, it was not big. I started when I was 16, and I taught for about 10 or 15 years.
Wow.
Maybe 10 years.
Wow.
But I don't think I ever had more than 10 students.
That's a sizable studio there. That's pretty amazing. And then it's kind of in the middle of this, you started tinkering around with Music Teacher's Helper, I assume, to help you with your studio. I mean, 10 students is a lot to manage.
Yeah, and actually at the time I was going to college, and I was already employed at that document imaging company. So I had a full-time job, going to school in the evenings, teaching 10 piano students. I also had a wife and a baby on the way.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it was a very busy time.
Crazy busy time. Now, did you have to travel to the students' houses, or did they come to you?
Actually, I did travel to most of the
Oh
students'
my
houses.
goodness. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we see a snapshot into the insane life. And I bet Music Teacher's Helper, which you developed yourself, did that save time for you? Did it streamline?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as the creator of it, it was a passion, and I was spending a lot of time working on it. So not in that sense, but in the amount of time that it saved me in dealing with the issues that it solved. Yes, absolutely.
Now, your mother was very wise in terms of advising you to pursue a computer career. And it's interesting, most musicians, of course, dream of landing a stable job in, say, as I mentioned, a major orchestra or teaching position in a music program. Now, so here you are. You had a stable job as a programmer. And then I understand that at one point your father-in-law lost a key position, lost his job at Novell, which is a major software company. And then you realized, seeing that situation, that there is no such thing as a stable job. Software company, orchestra, school, whatever. And so you had this software that you were tinkering around with, Music Teacher's Helper. What gave you the courage to try to go into business for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think that situation right there was one of the main instigators. Just realizing that, wow, I could lose my job at any time. At the whim of with the market or the boss or whatever happens. And I realized that I just want more security than that for my family. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And a friend of mine actually suggested that I turn Music Teacher's Helper into a business and start selling it.
Uh-huh.
And I had, shown it to a few of my music teacher friends, and they, said it looked like a great idea to them, and they'd love to use it. And so I figured, why not? What do I have to lose?
Now, of course, the moment, the day, the instant that you launched Music Teacher's Helper, you had 1 million people and millions of dollars flowed in, and you were instantly rich, right? It was an instant success story. Is that correct?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
It's interesting because I used to be with AirTurn. This is a company that made these wireless page-turning pedals, and I still remember the early days. The frantic pace of setting up the company, and then we launched the website live, and it was crickets. I remember I think we had one sale the first day. We all celebrated, and then there was no more sales. I think we had a total of maybe 7 sales that whole month.
Mhm.
It took a long time
Yeah.
to crawl out of that early, and I think it even dipped lower than that at one point, but it took a
Mm.
long time to get any traction. How long did it take for you to uh, to to actually see some money coming in?
Um, yeah, good question. It took a long time. I mean, I think like you, the first customer or two came fairly quickly because they're people I was talking to about it already. But yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't until about 4 years later I was earning
4
$1,500 a
years.
month.
That's
Uh,
it. 4
yeah,
years. Oh my God. Now, let's clarify something. Did you plan music teacher's helper to be, in the old days we'd buy a piece of software and that's it. You get a disc, you would install it, and the program was yours. Was that the pricing model that you had from the beginning, or was it a subscription from the very get-go?
it was a subscription product from the beginning.
Okay, so this would be something where people would pay a small amount of money every month to be able to continue using your service. Yeah.
That's right.
So it took 4 years. Oh my goodness. So what is that? About 100, customers that would get you to about 1,500 a month. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how many we had at that point, we have several different pricing plans, and they were different then than they were now. But yeah, it was a very low number like that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you have about 150 customers. It takes you 4 years to get here, and then you do something absolutely remarkable. You quit your job. You were still working with this web company. I'm assuming that this the document software company is paying you a whole lot more than $1,500 a month. Were you insane?
Well, I guess I forgot to add one other source of income that I had, one other thing to add to my plate that I was doing at the time, and that's freelance web design.
Ah,
So
yeah.
I had a few people that I was building websites for on the side as well.
Okay.
To supplement the income. But I mean, Music Teacher's Helper grew slowly for a number of reasons. One was that I had no idea what I was doing.
Are you allowed to say that?
I had, I never intended to become an entrepreneur or build a business or, anything like that. So I had to learn everything as I went along, uh, and then the other reason was that I had very limited time
Hmm.
to build it with. I would get up early in the morning. I would work through my lunch break. I would stay up late at night and work on it. But even that is only just a few hours a day. So it wasn't growing very fast. And there was a point in my job where, yeah, this around $1,500 mark, I had enough customers that I was getting, a lot of emails, support questions and sales questions and things like that. And I was just taking up so much of my time that I felt like I wasn't able to really do an effective job at my workplace. And so I came to the decision, I can't keep doing both. Um, but which one do I really want to do more? And I realized it was Music Teacher's Helper, and I believed that, seeing the growth that we'd had so far, that if I were able to put more time and effort into it, that I could grow it faster. And that was true.
But that's a pretty risky move. I mean, you're basically, and you had a family at this time, and you're basically saying, okay, well, I'm going to survive on what, $12,000 a month? Sorry, $12,000 a year. From this tiny little company. That takes a a remarkable leap of
Yeah,
faith. My goodness.
yeah, I guess it was. And I mean, we had a little bit of a savings cushion that would have lasted probably 6 months or so.
Okay.
But I figured within that time, and if it didn't work out, I can up my freelance web design, or I can come back and get another job
And were
if I
you
have
still
to.
teaching piano students through this time as well?
I was, yes.
Okay, so you still had that income too. So you could
I
always
still
go
have,
back to and grow. So you had your multiple eggs in multiple baskets.
that's
So
right. I had some options.
and then so there's an interesting book that comes into play, I think, in this portion of your life. Tim Ferriss wrote this remarkable book called The 4-Hour Work Week, where he posits and he paints in the beginning chapters this illustration of his life. He's somewhere in Argentina learning to tango or learning jujitsu in some remote country, and these people that live remarkable adventures, and they have companies that they operate remotely. They don't even have to be there, and they just work a few hours a week. Hence the title, 4 Hour Work Week. But they get to live life around the world, following their dreams with complete freedom. I have a feeling that this book had some kind of an impact on you, because I understand that after quitting your job, you did something even more out of the
Mhm.
box. You moved your family to Costa Rica, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit of what this book meant to you, the 4 Hour Work Week.
All right. Yeah, it was interesting because at this point I was doing everything in my business. I was doing the graphics design, the programming, the marketing, the sales support, programming, of course. So it was all consuming, and I hadn't really considered much the opportunity of bringing on somebody else to help me run it.
There wasn't enough money, yeah.
There
Uh-huh.
was no enough money anyway, exactly. But as I continued growing it, and I realized that I soon could bring on some help, I did. And Tim Ferriss in that book has some good suggestions for not just how to hire well, but how to eliminate the unnecessary things that we do, and how to automate the tasks that are done over and over and over again, so that they can be handled by a software program, and just different ways to make an operation more efficient, and then eventually to use that extra time to live life more fully. And so that was, yeah. And then I realized at some point that I went from reading this book, really, that I now have a job that it's all online. I can do it from anywhere. Why am I staying here in the same place? um, let's explore, and let's see what the rest of the world has to offer. Give my family a different type of education.
So I actually had known about Music Teacher's Helper for many years, but it wasn't until I read Chris Guillebeau's book, The $100 Startup, where he talks about you. I was like, wait a minute, I know this website. That I learned about this remarkable guy, Brandon Pearce, who was able to live off the proceeds of Music Teacher's Helper and travel around the world year-round with your whole family. Now, you just mentioned a little bit about some of the ways that you were able to automate aspects of your website, but you're actually physically not even there. I'm wondering if you could spend a little bit of time talking about how you outsource. I think there's a fascinating industry that many people may not be aware of, particularly musicians. But you can actually hire people and contract them for specific jobs through websites like Odesk. There used to be Elance, but I think they called it something else now. They changed that.
Now it's called Upwork.
Upwork, that's right. Yeah, Upwork. So tell us a little bit about how outsourcing works. And I think if we can start, maybe touch on that just a little bit. How does that actually work?
Yeah. Well, there are, like you mentioned, with sites like Upwork.com. If there is something that you need, well, actually, first let me go back. You mentioned I'm not there, and I have to clarify that there is no there for me. I have no home. I just rent places wherever we happen to be, and we have no office at Music Teachers Helper. All of our employees work from home wherever they are in the world,
so cool.
wherever they want to be in the world, and so we're completely online.
Completely virtual, absolutely virtual. There's no headquarters building. There's no campus. There's no cubicle. People work wherever they are, right?
That's right.
Oh my goodness! And do you ever have like company cookouts, company picnics, or anything like that?
I wish we could. Yeah, maybe once we're making a few million a year, we do something like that. But it would take quite a bit to get us all together, because we're spread out all over the globe.
That's amazing. Now, I think that, coupled with you have some really savvy frugality that you employ to enable you to travel. Tell us a little bit about how you're able to be frugal yet have so much freedom.
Sure. Well, it's funny, because I think when we think of a vacation or traveling, we think of expensive luxury hotels over a 2-week trip that are very costly, doing it that way. Whereas if you go to a country, and especially a low cost country, and rent a place for a month or a year, it's very affordable and generally much more affordable than even living in your own country, in your own hometown. So, for example, in Costa Rica, when we moved there, we rented a place for, I think it was $900 a month, but it was a beautiful, large home with an acre garden overlooking the Central Valley, and just a few minutes from town, and beautiful place. And that was a very high end property there. So I mean, we had friends who rented places for $200 or $300 a month.
That's
Uh,
incredible. Oh my God. So what, wait a minute. So with all the traveling you do, what happened to all your stuff? I assumed you had a home, a car, possessions, things. What happened to all the stuff that you had when you left?
we decided we did not need it anymore. So we sold all our stuff, gave a lot of it away, sold our house, sold our car, and just decided we would live out of what we can carry on our backs. And we basically have just been doing carry-on luggage since, yeah, for the past 6 or 7 years now, living out of that.
So you don't even use like you don't even check your bags. You don't have like 30 bags following you from the airport, do you?
No, no, just one carry-on size bag each, and then a backpack each.
Okay, we're going to get into travel tips in just a bit because this is remarkable. Just to be completely depossessing yourself of material possessions. I think that's another key secret you have. It seems that there's a certain kind of freedom in not owning stuff.
It felt so liberating to let go of all that stuff. We had two kids at the time. We now have three. The third one was born on the road. But I just remember their closet was so full of junk toys that they would get out and throw around the room, and not really take time to enjoy or appreciate any of them so much. And just the stuff that we'd collect over the years from parties and birthdays and all sorts of things, and just realizing the weight of not having to worry about any of it anymore, not having to organize it, not having to worry about things breaking, or just being completely free of that stuff. It was liberating.
Now, it must have been difficult for the children. I mean, it must have been heartbreaking to say you're not going to take this toy or that toy. Was it difficult for them?
Um, Probably. I mean, they were only 5 and 3 years old at the time.
Hmm.
But we said, I think we said, pick your favorite 3 or 5 toys or something like that. We'll bring those, as long as they're small. And then the rest we're giving away, and they actually got into the charity of it a little bit too. Like, they were excited to think about their toys going to other kids who didn't have as many toys and that type of thing. So it wasn't that bad. And like I said, when you have so much stuff, it's hard to really appreciate and get attached to any of it as much anyway.
I want to touch also. I'm noticing with your travel itinerary, which you post on your website, that you purposely aim for temperate zones.
Hmm.
My former business partner told me that when he sold his company before starting AirTurn, he did a similar trip where he just had a backpack and just traveled around the world, but he purposely traveled seasonally to wherever it was going to be warmest, so he wouldn't have to carry heavy, bulky clothes. Is that part of your strategy too?
It is, yes. Now, we actually did do our first winter in 6 years, this last Christmas in Breckenridge, Colorado, with my mom and sister, and that was an expensive trip, I'll tell you. But we stocked up on winter gear at a local thrift shop, and got all the stuff we needed, but bought a few things. But yeah, it's normally we like to stay where it's warm. It was because of the kids; they've been begging us for snow for quite a while.
Oh,
So
oh, so you made that dream come true. I want to let that sink in for our listeners, how remarkable the concept is to have this company that makes now, I mean, now you're making significant money, but even now with the money that's coming in, you still purposely live without possessions. And we're going to touch into some of the experiences that has taught you in just a bit. But I hope you don't mind. I want to talk a little bit more about a very significant epoch in your life. Now, I understand you were raised in the Mormon Church, the Church of Latter-day Saints, and you got your first taste of international travel when you went to Japan on I think it was a missions trip. Is that right? At age 19?
That's right. Most Mormon boys go at 19 for 2 years
I,
to convert people to Mormonism.
I see. I got you. Okay. So you were very, you grew up, were born into the Mormon church, very happy in the church. You had, you were a very faithful adherent. And then I was actually, as I was researching you, I was quite surprised to find that in 2011 you had actually left the Mormon church and you had really written out a very extensive statement detailing your reasons why. Now, it's really clear from just this conversation, getting to know you a little bit and some of your decisions and your life's journey, that you're somebody who thinks and lives way outside of the box. I'm wondering if you can share some of, if you don't mind. I know this is a sensitive topic, but would you mind sharing some of the reasons why you left the faith that you grew up with?
Mm. Yeah, I'd be happy to. As you mentioned, it was, a big part of my life. I was extremely devout. And when I say extreme, I do mean it. Probably more than most Mormons. I would keep my church clothes on all Sunday to, be reminded that it was the Sabbath, and I would. Anyway, basically, it was my life. It was the framework through which I saw everything. I knew, where I lived before I was born, why I was here on earth, where I was going after I died. Everything fit within my box and, made perfect sense to me. And the reason that I knew that it was true was because I felt in my heart these warm, peaceful feelings that the church had told me were indicative of God telling me that the Mormon church was true, and that the things that I was doing, reading, thinking, whatever, in that moment when I'm feeling those emotions, that means that's true in a literal and universal sense. So, and in my, as we moved to Costa Rica, and as we were in a new environment and had more time to introspect, I wanted to take that time to move even closer to God, and to to have more of those wonderful feelings in my heart. So I began reading books by both church authors and people from other religions as well, who teach about spirituality and those types of things. And I talked with people from other religions. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I was very surprised to realize that there are people in other religions who have those exact same feelings in their hearts, but interpret them to mean that their own religions are true, and that God is telling them through those feelings that their religion is true. And I just couldn't reconcile how God would be giving one person one message and another person another message, and have those two messages contradict each other. So that kind of got my curiosity up, and I started seeing the church through new eyes. And I was a very devout student of church history, but I started realizing that a lot of the things that I had learned, I had kind of brushed aside. Things from the temple ceremony being copied from Freemasonry, or Joseph Smith practicing polygamy and marrying 14-year-old girls and things like that. Stuff that I kind of knew about already, but dismissed as, well, that's not a big deal.
That is a very big deal. Yeah. Some of these irreconcilable truths, it would seem, you do such a fascinating job. It's a lengthy document, but you do such a fascinating job of wrestling with some of the contradictory things that you had been grown up to accept, but as you say, are looking now with fresh eyes. It's kind of difficult to try to explain issues like polygamy and some of the other historical contradictions, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There are so many contradictions and so many things that just did not make sense after I looked at them with new eyes. And the hardest part about it, I mean, it was immensely challenging to come to these realizations, because my whole world was turned upside down. I no longer knew what was true. I no longer knew what reality was, or who I was, or where I came from, or why I'm here, or where I'm going, or any of these questions. And um, my life became a blank slate, and I had to figure it all out again. But as difficult as that was, I think it was even harder still uh, to uh, to deal with the emotional and the relationship um, trauma that followed with because Mormonism is a very tight knit community. It's a very insular community, and I mean, leaving the country already
That's difficult in itself.
was a big thing, and we got some backlash for that. But leaving the church, I mean, announcing to family and friends that we no longer believe is like committing social suicide.
Wow.
And
Man.
and so I didn't announce it for quite a while. I waited a good year, probably before saying anything, until it kind of became obvious because they were seeing pictures of my wife in sleeveless dresses, which women are supposed to wear, and we stopped talking about church on Twitter.
I didn't realize there was a dress code as well. So your wife, did she wrestle with the same questions, or was she of the same mindset or different mindset? What was her perspective on the things that you were wrestling with?
Yeah, she was just as devout as I was, but always in the back of her mind, there had been some lingering things that just didn't seem right. The gossipy nature of the women's organization there, and different things that bothered her, but she could never quite put her finger on, what it was. But as I mean, we were together 24/7, just like we always are with our kids now. So, as I was wrestling with these issues, I talked with them about her, and she'd share her opinions, and we'd kind of go through it together, and yeah, it clicked for both of us around the same time.
This is fascinating. You've had a physical kind of depossessing, which in one sense was very uplifting, and then yet this spiritual depossessing or removing of your spiritual inventory must have been, as you mentioned, very, very cataclysmic. What did you turn to next? What did you? Are you still a blank slate? Are you looking at what is your spiritual journey looking like now?
Yeah, I've gone through a lot since then. That was 2011. So, I mean, I started out. I don't know that I could say I ever completely lost a sense of spirituality, but I definitely went through, kind of an atheist period and an agnostic period, and I guess in a way I still am. But and I don't really adhere specifically to any religion or dogma or even philosophy, except that I'm open to the mystery, and I try to appreciate the beauty of life as it comes, and as I experience it, and try to do good, and make the world a better place in whatever way I can. So whether there is a God in the sky with a physical body, I know I highly doubt that, but if it can be shown, I'm open to the idea. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm open to the mystery.
And it's in some ways you are uniquely positioned, given your ability to have the freedom of time to really think and digest. And in some ways, we in the Western world, our lives are so cluttered with material things and toys and things to do and social obligations and the busyness of our work and life and all that nobody seems to really take the time to think through these deeper issues. And they, many people, I would assume, perhaps just simply go with the flow with whatever they're comfortable with. So it seems like you have a very unique opportunity to have the luxury of time to digest some of these thoughts and perspectives much more deeply than it almost sounds like a luxury.
And it is. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that we wanted to start traveling, that we decided to sell everything and go, because we could see where our lives were headed. We were so busy. We were pulled in so many directions back in Utah. And we saw, if we kept going down this road, we'd just continue to be stressed out and busy. We might get a bigger house and a nicer car, but so what? We wanted more meaning in our lives and more freedom, the kind of life where we can stop and smell the roses and appreciate, what we have, where we are.
Even that phrase, I'm sure, has a much deeper meaning for you, just to stop and appreciate where you are, what you have, and even your own definition of happiness is quite profound, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I guess so.
So, just getting back to your schedule, approximately 5 hours a week working. I know we've been kind of touching on some of the deeper spiritual and philosophical things that you have time to think about. But what else do you do with the remainder of your time? I know you've written some beautiful music, which we're listening to here in the episode, and just gorgeous, gorgeous writing.
Thank you.
And I saw some videos of you getting back to playing the piano. I'm wondering, what do you do with your time, and does music have a role in your present life and future?
Mm. Yeah, at the moment, being in New Zealand, we're here for 3 months. We opted not to rent a piano this time. We often do, but we are renting a harp and
Oh,
taking harp
cool.
lessons as a family. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, we try to take advantage of little classes and opportunities in the different places we are. But um, right now, I spend a lot of my time writing. So I'm working on a book at the moment that I'm not sure exactly what it will turn into. It started out being a book about family travel and the practicalities and logistics of doing it affordably and making it a meaningful experience. And I'm enjoying writing that. And I also just write a lot about my own thoughts, and sometimes I'll put them public on the blog, our family blog, pearceonearth.com. Um, we spend time with our kids. I've been helping. We do kind of an unschooling approach, which means, as far as our kids' education, we don't send them to school or even follow a particular curriculum, but we support the children in learning what they're passionate about, and we find resources and facilitate them to go as far as they want in those directions. So my oldest is really into songwriting and singing, and she's taking professional lessons from a professional songwriter in LA
Oh,
through
wow.
Skype.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And she's written some great songs that she's put out or for sale now, and she even made a music video for one of them.
How about that?
Yeah, so been helping with that, and then of course, we do like to get out and see, some of the sights and the nature and things like that in the places we're staying. New Zealand is beautiful, and next week we have some friends coming to visit us. There's another traveling family that we've met on the road. There's quite a community of them now. If you go to Facebook groups like Families Who Love Travel or Families on the Move, or even the World Schoolers Facebook group, there's hundreds or thousands in some cases families who are living this type of lifestyle. As unique as it may sound, when we started, we knew nobody else who was doing this. We thought we're the only ones, but it's been growing. So anyway, they're coming down and they'll be with us for a couple of weeks, and we'll be exploring a bit of New Zealand with them. Uh, so yeah, those are the types of things that we're doing at the moment. And yeah, as for music, I would love to get more into it. I do plan to uh, continue to write more, but it's got to flow in when I feel inspired and when the time comes.
Sure,
I'll
sure.
do it. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. Speaking of community, that must be one of the most challenging things since you're only in a given country for a few months at a time. Is it difficult to get a sense of belonging or community or friendships? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I would say that is one of the most challenging parts. Um, we're actually planning to spend 6 months this year in Victoria, Canada, which is the longest we've been anywhere for quite a while. And we've been there. We were there for 3 months last year, and we've developed some local friendships there. So that will feel. We hope to get more into the community there. Um, but yeah, that is a challenge. We do fortunately keep in touch with a lot of the people that we meet through Skype or through email, and our kids will chat with their friends all over the world regularly. Almost every day, they're chatting with somebody. Um, so we do keep it up, and then when we meet in person, of course, it's just wonderful, and we hit it off again like there was no time that passed. So in that
Mm,
sense, it maybe not that unusual, but it's funny because with family, when we lived in Utah, and we were close to family, we'd see them maybe once a month or once every few months for a dinner or something like that, and that was nice. But now that we're traveling, if we see them, it's because they're coming to visit us for a couple of weeks, or we're going there, and we spend all day every day together, and it's so much more of a bonding experience than it was when we were closer to them, ironically.
It seems that life has become so much more vibrant for you, moment to moment, relationship to relationship. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you decide which location you're going to go to?
Um, yeah, it's a good question. Wherever we feel inspired, I guess. In some cases, it's determined by the cost of a place, the climate. At the moment, it's more around community and friends and people and who we're going to be seeing.
Mm.
So we're traveling to places where, well, actually, this past year was, including right now, this is the last stop in this trip, was a a year to try to find a place where we wanted to settle a little more longer term. Because as much as we love the travel, we're realizing we do want some kind of a more stable home base somewhere to come back to. Uh, so that we're thinking Victoria is probably going to be it.
Wow, it's pretty cool to be house shopping all over the world like this. So I wanted to hit on a couple of fun questions. So, what are your best? Can you share some of your best travel tips? I think you right off the bat, keeping your luggage down to a bare minimum to what you can carry. Avoid avoid having your avoid checked baggages, right? But what are some other great travel tips that you might share?
Yeah, if you want to travel affordably, well, my first tip, of course, would be to travel longer. So, go for a month or a year rather than a week or two, because you'll pay much less per night that way. We've stayed at places that would normally be, $600 a night, and we've spent about $130 a night for those places.
Wow.
So things like that. And that's a very, very luxury high-end place, of course. But so if we are, yeah, another option, another idea is to not even look at renting a house at all, but to do things like home exchange or house sitting. There are so many people out there. Well, there are a lot of websites that help facilitate this: homeexchange.com, lovehomeswap.com. What was the house sitters something? I can't remember. Anyway, there's few house sitting websites where people are just looking for somebody to stay at their house and take care of their plants or their pets for a few weeks or a few months at a time. And it's a great way to not only get free or very low cost accommodation, but also to get a chance to experience more of what it's like to live in a real house in a neighborhood or in a different place, more like living there rather than just staying in a hotel. Airbnb, of course, also has some great options for rentals. There are also like I think WWOOF or woofing, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not very clear on
That's okay.
the names right now. I'm blanking, but there are a few work exchange type websites where you can find people who, for example, they may have a farm or a house that they're just looking for a little bit of help for maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. So if you don't mind working while you're on your trip, you can do that in exchange for free accommodations and sometimes meals.
I remember running through one of those programs in Korea. There was an organic farm where they were able to get foreign students to come live with them, feed them, and they worked the apple orchard for a couple of months. It's an absolutely fascinating way to travel.
Yeah, you get such a different experience with it, and yeah, that's the one thing that we really enjoy about travel is just the uniqueness of the opportunities. Um, yeah, it's so different than just staying in a hotel in a resort that's kind of the same anywhere in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you carry so little with you, would you mind sharing with us what do you have in your bag at any given time?
Sure, yeah. Of course, have my laptop. That's most important. And I have a camera as well. I've upgraded to a Sony Nex A6000. I've really enjoyed photography lately, so I'm upping my game there. I have 3 or 4 shirts, 2 pair of pants. um, let's see. Uh, yeah, a razor. I mean, there's not really a lot of a lot that I need beyond that. I mean, anything that we need that we don't have, we can always buy wherever we're going.
Yeah.
So we don't really carry toiletries and shampoos and such so much when we travel, because we can just easily buy them there. And especially since you can't easily take large bottles of them through
Airport
airport security anyway. I could pull up a list of all this stuff from my bag if you want a list of stuff.
No, it's just so cool of what you don't need. It's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, really, beyond I mean, I found that I was wearing the same few shirts anyway. Why do I need, a new shirt for every day of the week? I wear the same one for 3 or 4 days and then wash it, and it's good enough.
Oh, that's so cool. Now,
I actually do really like the pants that I've got, though. They're Columbia convertible pants, so I can unzip them at the knee and they can become shorts.
Oh, clever.
Nice for those hot days. Yeah.
Very, very clever. So also, I'm wondering, since you've been in so many different countries and musicians, we love our food. I'm wondering if you could share some of the favorite foods you've experienced that have been unlike anything perhaps that you grew up with.
Yeah, I have really come to love especially Thai and Indian food. I think those are my two favorite cuisines. And I was never really into spices, back in Utah, and I could never really handle much spice, but I've learned to be able to handle some somehow. Some of my favorite dishes, I think, there was in Penang, Malaysia. It's a great place for food lovers because the food there is so cheap. I mean, $1 to $3, $4 a plate at a nice restaurant. Not super nice restaurant, you'll pay more, but at a decent place. And just the food is phenomenal. It's a great mix of Indian, Malay, and Chinese culture there. They have those three. So there's a restaurant there I remember called Sri Ananda Bawang, and they had the most amazing Indian food. I remember the butter chicken there was just so sweet, and so just every bite was a party in the mouth.
You're getting me hungry now. Oy. Have you tried any of the durian fruits in Malaysia?
I have tried durian, yes.
What do you think of durian?
It's pretty potent.
You either love it or you hate it. I haven't tried it yet myself, but I've been seeing all these videos of people trying it. It looks so fascinating.
Yeah, there's a fruit that looks similar to that I like even more called marang, and I found that in the Philippines, in Davao especially. It's so amazing. It's similar to it's kind of a similar texture, not a similar texture. I can't describe it, but it's delicious. It's delicious.
Brandon, thank you so much for sharing just a little bit of your remarkable life and remarkable thought processes. And it's such an inspiration to hear this unique take on work, life, art, and how you've managed to create such a unique experience for yourself and your family. I'm sure you continue to inspire a lot of people in not just your wonderful web service, which is terrific by itself, but just the way you live your life. It's just an honor to have spoken with you, and I hope one of these days we can meet in person.
Thank you, Hugh. It was so great talking with you, too. I hope we can meet one day as well.
For links to Brandon's websites and all the amazing resources mentioned in this interview, you're definitely going to want to visit the show notes at amusicallife.com. And if you'd like to sign up for Music Teacher's Helper and support this show at the same time, visit amusicallife.com/Music Teacher's Helper, all one word. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we just crossed over 250,000 downloads of this podcast in only 7 months' time. If you enjoy this show, I hope you'll help me cross the next 250,000 by going to amusicallife.com/review and posting a quick review in iTunes. We've got some amazing guests lined up for future episodes, and I can't wait to share their stories with you. Thank you for telling your friends about this show and for all your support. Until next time, I'm Hugh Sung, and I wish you a musical life.